and welcome to the Isle of Wight Story Festival. Next we are joined by Jules Marriner, a fantastic Isle of Wight author and illustrator, who is going to take us on an adventure with Pixie to find old Monty and discover the adventures he's been having in space. But before we start, we do have a few housekeeping rules we need to share with you. Please remember, children under the age of 12 participating in online events must be accompanied by an adult. We do hope you participate by making comments and asking questions, but please do not reveal any personal details such as your age, school, full name or address, or ask anything like that of other people. And please do not post anything that is disrespectful or bullying to another person. The Isle of Wight Festival will be monitoring the chat, and we reserve the right to delete comments that break the rules, give warnings and ban repeat offenders. Finally, please be aware that live sessions may be recorded and made available after the events. With that in mind, please get ready to join Jules with her wonderful story, Dogstar.
Hello! It's me, Jules, and welcome to the Isle of Wight Story Festival. I haven't seen you for ages, so how are you and what have you been doing? What have you been up to? I've been down in my Hobbit Hole studio where I work, wondering what I should be doing next, which book I should be writing. And I've decided that I'm going to start writing a second book about Vincent the Vegetarian Vampire Bat. And this one's going to have a mermaid in it. So there's going to be lots of fun drawings about mermaids and the sea and fish and octopuses and all sorts of things. But whilst I was down here one day, I came across an old friend of mine that I haven't seen for ages. There she is, Pixie, and she is in a story called Dogstar. Say hello everybody, say hello to Pixie. Say hello Pixie. Hello! And she's a Chihuahua, like my Chihuahua. I've got two Chihuahuas, they're both very naughty, don't tell anyone. But I thought today what we'd do is I'd tell you a bit about Dogstar, the story I wrote, and then we'll have a quick read through of it and see if you like the story, and then we're going to make something. So first of all, well, what is the Dogstar? It's a star, so it's not a planet, although in my story it is a planet. And it's a really long way away. And if on a very cloudless night you can see the stars and it's winter time, then you might be able to find the Dogstar because it's the brightest star in the whole sky. You can see behind me there's the moon, and over in this corner over here I've painted the Dogstar in yellow. So if you can find a star constellation, that's a group of stars, that's called Orion, and Orion is the archer, so you'll see him, he's kind of this shape and he's got a belt on. You can see 3 diagonal stars in a line, and if you find those diagonal stars, then you need to pretend you've got a ruler, a really massive sky ruler, and put your ruler up against the 3 dots in Orion's belt, and then follow that line down and you'll find a really bright star in the sky, and that is the Dogstar. But more about that later. Shall we start the story? Dogstar. Monty was missing. His best friends, Pixie and the boy, were worried about him, and they'd made a poster. Monty wasn't the sort of dog to wander off, especially as he'd had a lot of achy bones and stiff joints lately. What's more, he was terrifically old in dog years. Sir Henry Puggington from next door was carefully, digging up the family marigolds. He told Pixie he'd heard Monty muttering to himself about the Dogstar. Dogstar? Asked Pixie. What's that? Come on, I'll show you, woofed Sir Henry, whipping out his telescope. After dark, they gazed up at the Milky Way. There, pointed the pug. It's the brightest star in the sky. Pixie peered through the telescope. "I bet that's where Monty is," said Sir Henry. "It's just the place for an old dog like him." The next day, Pixie started some very important work. She had no idea what to expect from the Dogstar or what her friend was doing there, but she knew one thing for sure: she had to find Monty. Pixie used everything in her junk modelling cupboard and a few bits from under the sink to build a rocket. Sir Henry was so astonished his tongue hung out even further than usual. "Right, if anyone asks," Pixie said hurriedly, "you haven't seen me." And with that, she slammed the steel door shut and took her seat for takeoff. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoosh! She was gone. Up, 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 beyond the clouds, through the blue sky, and past the International Space Station. Suddenly, she was weightless. "Cool, this is brilliant fun," said Pixie as she bobbed around the cabin, trying some tricks. She circled the Earth a few times, as she'd always wanted to see the world, and then the serious journey to find Monty began. Pixie switched on the automatic navigation system and plotted a course to the Dogstar. Now she could sit back in a floaty kind of way and wait. Finally, on the third day, she arrived. Dogstar seemed very empty. There was no sign of life, just a lot of sand, rocks and craters. But thankfully, there was air. Something drew her attention to one hole in particular. There was an odd noise, a sort of far-off snuffling. She looked in, but the next moment she was falling down the tunnel, arms and legs rotating like a windmill in a storm. There was a cavern full of dogs. Splat! And a very comfortable landing they made too. She started a sort of doggy stampede, and the dogs weren't going to stop for Pixie. Oh no! They were on their way somewhere, and Pixie was caught up in the rush. There, at the end of the tunnel, was a path to an ancient castle. It had a sign above the door that Pixie couldn't quite read from so far away. There was someone at the door to greet them. "Nice to see you, ma'am," said Elvis, the butler. "Now, did any of you guys see my hound dog?" In front of Pixie was a hallway full of chandeliers and antique furniture. It was terribly posh. She tried to answer Elvis and wipe her paws on the doormat, but the dogs all tore up the stairs, paying little attention to Elvis's shag pile carpet, and Pixie was swept off her feet in a tidal wave of fur. "Just follow the dogs to the recycling centre," called Elvis to her, leaving the building. They passed boxes and bottles of all manner of stuff and gubbins. Can you see eyebrows and whiskers, wibbly bits, pointy ears, wobbly bits, dog treats, teeth? When they stopped at a big door, Pixie felt like she might have an attack of the vapours. The other dogs, though, seemed super excited. They nudged the door open, and Pixie gasped in amazement. Pixie's ear fluff waggled with nerves as she looked down the dark chute. "Go on!" the other dogs all cheered. "It's just like being at a water park." Pixie mustered all her courage and leapt. Bump, bump, slide, she went, until she ended up in a basket of fancy cushions. The basket, with Pixie installed, headed into the recycling machine. She shut her eyes. Somewhere inside the giant gurgling machine, she must have been tipped out of her comfy basket with the fancy cushions. It was like being inside a candy floss machine. Round and round she went, until a hand picked her up and hurled her out of the exit. Pixie looked at the other dog in the new basket. There was something familiar about him. She couldn't quite put her paw on it. It wasn't. It couldn't be. This dog looked so young. "Monty!" she shrieked. "What has happened to you?" "Well, I've had a jolly good bath," said Monty, in between yips of happiness. "First, you get soaped up. Then you get rinsed and dried with a wind blaster. And finally, you end up looking rather dashing, don't you think?" I can't believe it," spluttered Pixie. This really didn't look like the old Monty, and yet, somehow, it was him. "Then," went on Monty, "you have a check-up all over, an X-ray, followed by earwax removal. I can jolly well hear now. Then, new teeth, if necessary. And finally, a quick go on the flea nosher. Wondrous invention," said Monty with deep admiration. "Fancy that!" marvelled Pixie. "But," she said, frowning, "none of that happened to me. That, my dear, is because you are in perfect condition. You don't need any new bits." Pixie blushed to the tips of her ear fluff and then tried to change the subject. "We ought to be getting back home," she declared. "Dinner might be ready." "Quite right," said Monty. He called to the others. "Any of you chaps need a lift back to Earth?" Meanwhile, back in their house, the boy was feeling very down in the dumps. Now both of his dogs had gone missing. He was sure Sir Henry from next door knew something, but that naughty flower-digging mutt wasn't telling. Pixie poked her head through the dog flap. "Wuffity-wuff-wuff!" she yipped. "My dogs!" shrieked the boy as he gathered them up in his arms for a massive doggy hug. "Oh, you little tinkers, where on earth have you been?" Pixie looked at Monty. "Good job we can't speak human," she said, "because I'm not sure how we'd explain this one." Oh dear. In the morning, the boy had 2 dogs. But then that evening, he ended up with how many dogs? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dogs. Gosh, I hope he's got enough dog food. In the back of my book, if you look right at the very back, you'll see some super space facts. And I'm going to tell you my 2 favourite. What colour do you think sunsets on Mars are? Any ideas? You think about a sunset on Earth, you get pinks and maybe oranges, a bit of purple maybe. What colour do you think sunsets on Mars are? If you said blue, you'd be right. Blue sunsets, how strange. And another fact on this page is a beam of sunlight takes 8 minutes to reach the Earth. So the next time we have a sunny day and you're outside, you can think, wow, that sunbeam that I could feel on my skin took 8 minutes to get here from the sun. Now, are you up for a challenge? Because I think it might be nice if we designed a rocket. I'm going to show you how I designed my rocket, and then I want you to have a go to design your own one in the way that you want to. It can be absolutely anything. Use your imagination. Be as crazy as you want. Use whatever things you've got. Seagull alert. Use whatever things you've got at home, whether you've got coloured pencils or if you've got colouring pens or paint, if you're allowed to use that. Maybe you've got some sequins or some other things in your art cupboard or craft cupboard, or even things like, if you're allowed to, ask if you could borrow some dried pasta, something like that, and then you can decorate your rocket with those things. So come on then, let's have a look at how I drew my rocket. This is the page I'm going to use to do my drawing from, and it's the page that maybe might give you some ideas too. So I've drawn these little bubbles and written inside a label to say what the different things are, to show you what the design of the rocket is. So I'm just going to put that to one side, and I've got some paper. I'm using marker paper, but you can use any white paper that you've got. Here's my white paper, and I've got a pencil sharpener and a rubber. I've got a black pen, but if you haven't got a black pen like I've got, then just use a biro or any other black pen that you've got, and I've got a pencil as well. So I'm just going to quickly do a little light sketch to start with to remind me of what I'm drawing. And one of the things that I started off thinking about was what the main body of the rocket was going to be made of. So I knew it was going to be a sort of tube shape, and I thought, well, what is a tube shape? And I decided in the end that it was going to be like the tube that goes up a chimney. If you've got a log burner in your house, or you've got an old fire, you might have a big steel tube that goes up inside a chimney. So I thought I'd use that as the base for my rocket. And then of course it's got to have a door, hasn't it? So what would the door be made of? I decided it would need to be very thick steel. So there's the door open and some little hinges. And then I've got some, in fact I'm going to show how it's thick by adding an extra bit there to show that that is how thick the door is. I'm going to get rid of this line in a minute. And also it's got some little catches to make sure it shuts. When it's shut, it doesn't open again when she's flying around in space. And then I'm going to make that a bit taller because she's got a window to look out of. And this window is made from a washing machine door. Like that. And then to land on, to make sure she doesn't just crash land when she gets up to Dogstar, she's got these things. They've got a long handle like this, and this bit's made of wood, the handle, and then they've got these black sucker things on the bottom. Do you know what they're used for? They're used for, if you get a blocked sink, then one of your grown-ups might get a sink plunger out, and they might put it over the top of the plug hole and pump it up and down to see if they can remove the blockage. But in this case, I thought these would make an excellent landing device for our rocket. And then on the top, as the roof, I thought I might use, what shall I use? I know, a giant, do you know what these things are called? Funnel. That's right, there we go. So it's upside down. And on funnels you have these little lines, and then it says how much liquid or how much stuff there is going in, because what you use these for is normally they're up the other way. They'd be up this way like this. And then if you wanted to get some liquid from a bottle Let's have a bottle. Whoops. There's a bottle. And you wanted to get that liquid into this skinny jar. How are you going to do it without spilling it? Well, you use a funnel because it's wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. So your liquid goes in there and then ends up filling up this jar. Now, I'm just going to rub this out in a moment, but first of all, I'm going to use my black pen to fill in all of these lines. And the places where I don't want the pencil to show, like for example down here, I'm not going to draw over that bit. So I'm going to start with the door first of all. And the hinges. And the door catch. And these are Victorian door catches. Very posh. And then the thick steel door, that shows us how thick it is. And then I'm also, next up I'm going to draw this plunger here. There's the handle. And then these things, that's what attaches it to the rocket. Like that. They're screwed in to the rocket. And now, once I've done this one, now we can draw the steel tube of the rocket. And it goes behind that wooden handle. So I haven't drawn it across the middle there. Up to there, and up that side. And then here's our funnel. And the measuring lines. Now we can draw this bit. There's the door hole, so that when you shut it, it fills up that hole. And do you remember what we said this was? That's right, a washing machine door. There we go. So I'm going to rub out all the lines I don't need, and then I'm going to find some pens. So there we go, I've rubbed out all the lines and I've chosen a few colours, and these pens are called Crayola Super Tips. If you get any of these Crayola pens, they're quite good because if you accidentally get them on any clothing, it just washes out. But also, they come in lots of colours and they're not very expensive. You can get them in most of the supermarkets. I'm going to show you, first of all, with the grey, a little trick to show that this big steel tube is actually shiny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour in some of it, and then some of it I'm going to leave white. And those white bits show that that's where it's shiny. Like that. It sort of looks, although it looks stripy, it does give that, it gives that illusion of it being shiny rather than stripy. So I thought I would use purple for the inside. Let's see what it looks like for the inside of the door. Oh my goodness me, it was nearly running out, that pen. I needed a little bit of a kickstart. I think I might have to get, I must have used this pen a lot. Might have to get a new purple. So tell me in the comments, if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, what is your favourite colour? Or have you got a favourite combination of colours? Perhaps you've got a couple of colours that you really like using together. Have a guess at what mine might be. No, it's not purple. Good guess though. I don't think you'll ever be able to guess, unless you've seen something I've done before and I've told you before what my favourite colours are. I'll tell you what they are. Green and pink together. Right, now, whilst that's just drying, I'm going to do the funnel. So this is going to be in blue, The other thing that's good about these pens is because they've got a very flat surface to them and they've got quite a wide tip, you can cover a lot of that white area in a very short space of time if you hold your pen slightly sideways. It makes a big thick line, whereas if you hold it straight down, it makes a very thin line like that, see? But if you've got a lot of colouring to do and you've got very thin nibs on your felt tip pens, it takes ages, doesn't it? Okay, now I am going to get a different purple to go inside. Which one shall we use? Let's use this one. This is from a bit of a slightly different pen. This one's called a brush pen because it's got a brush end to it, you see? Slightly different purple. And we'll do the inside in that. Because in the book, she's got wallpaper, very nice posh designer wallpaper inside. But we haven't got time to be drawing wallpaper, have we? Got things to do today. It takes us all day to draw wallpaper. Okay, now I'm going to draw these black rubbery sucker things. Like that. I need a brown because these handles are wood. Do you remember I said they were wood? Let's find a brown. This one will do. And I'm just going to fill in the handle bit like that, and then I think we'll use the grey for doing the connector, and then we need one more colour. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put grey down on this thick bit of door as well. You need one more colour to go around the outside of the washing machine window. Splendiferous. And there is the design for my rocket. So what's your rocket going to be like? Are you going to have similar things to me? Are you going to have a funnel maybe on the top? Or are you going to have something completely different? Are you going to have a funnel made of pizza? Or are you going to have a door that's a big donut? You can tell it's getting towards lunchtime, can't you? Because I'm thinking of food. Or you could think of anything at all that you'd want to make your rocket from and see what you can come up with. And that's the story of Dogstar. Of course, we know really that it's not a planet. You wouldn't be able to land on it. It would be way too hot. Did you know that Dogstar is twice as massive as our own sun? In fact, did you know that Dogstar is actually 2 stars, Sirius A and Sirius B, but because they are so close together and we are so far away, it looks like one really bright star. Also, did you know that although Sirius, the Dogstar, appears either yellowy or white most of the time, it's actually called a rainbow star because if you can see it close enough, you see lots of different colours coming from it. I wonder if there are any unicorns up there. And finally, Dogstar is around 20 times brighter than our own sun. And if you're wondering how hot it is, very, very hot. Hotter by about 3 times than the hottest, most boiling, most scalding lava that comes out of a volcano. And that is really hot. Well, that's it for today. If you want some more of what I do, whether that's to do with books or drawing tutorials or other things that I get up to, you can find me on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel called Jules Marriner Books, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and of course I've got my own website, julesmarinerbooks.com. On YouTube, I've got a playlist just for stories, so if you want to hear Royal Fleas or one of the other ones, then you can go over there and listen to that story. So until next time, when I come and see you in person in a library or come to your school, I'm going to say goodbye because I really need a custard cream and I think those dogs are woofing and they need their lunch. I'll see you next time. Bye, stay safe, bye.